All right, guys, thanks for being on. This section, I have Rob Richman on with me. So for those of you guys who don't know, Rob is an integrity partner. You partnered, what, 2 years ago or a year and a half ago at this point?
Yeah, year and a half.
Year and a half. And Rob's been in the industry for a long time and has sold a ton of insurance in his career, Hall of Fame producer, has helped a lot of people become Hall of Fame producers and still sells, even though he's an integrity partner, which I respect a ton. I think we were going through some stuff on a call recently, and Sean named a few people, and you were one of the few people he named that still sells as an integrity partner. Which, dude, I think that's important. I've always been one where if we're going to introduce something new on our team, I'd like to be go out there and sell it myself as well. So I really appreciate and respect that about you. And what I wanted you to cover, if you can, is a lot of people have been having success with the ILC mortgage protection leads. And I think they're really awesome for a couple of reasons. Like, first, direct mail mortgage leads, the first thing is people get 12 mailers to 30 mailers, right? So it's going to be really hard to compete. Even if you're the first one in there, the chance of an agent coming in behind you and being dishonest are relatively high, right? And you're paying $80 a lead. And those leads are, from all the vendors resell those leads. So the amount of people that are going to get called from direct mail leads is pretty crazy. And so I like what people have done now, which is shifted to, IUL leads, which we're going to talk about in the next section with Josh, who'll be on here, and the virtual mortgage leads. So I'd love for you, Rob, to go through top to bottom, how much you spend a week on the leads, what dialing them looks like, how your script and presentation goes, kind of everything you're doing to work those leads to sell as much as you're selling with them.
Yeah, for sure. So first, I learned how to lead from the front from you. So we were, you've been at the company for a year longer than me, and we were in Vegas, however many years ago that was, sitting at the same table at 150,000 a month. And I just saw it, and you set the bar for production and doing travel trips and creating just the leadership, blowing it off, really. So I've always respected that about you. And if you are watching this and you're in a position where you are looking to get the results that another group is getting, that you may be confused about how they're getting them, it all falls back on leadership. And I know when my agency has been stagnant, it's because I'm not leading from the front. So listen, when you get to the integrity level, it's like you can think two ways. You can think, I gotta sell, or I get to sell. I always thought of it as I get to sell. I get to stay sharp, and I get to keep my skills on point. So when I do have somebody come across my path that I want to be able to recruit and bring into this and have the proof of concept, it's already there. I don't have to scramble and go out and get it. So that's always been my and not always, actually, starting January 1st of this year, that became 100% my mindset. So starting January 1st of this year, I said, I'm just going to start selling at a high level again, because this is going to do one of two things. It's either going to motivate my team, and if it doesn't motivate my team, my bottom line is going to look a whole heck of a lot better. So it's a win-win. So whatever happens, it's a win. And it's done both. So my thought process in January was instant internets with beneficiaries, which I still think is a great lead for people to start on because they're super easy to sell. My approach towards these is, in my mind, was I want to run appointments in the states that have a reputation attached to them of being a little simpler. So instead of running a Massachusetts or a Connecticut, maybe I'm going to pick Iowa or Missouri or Kansas. Same way when we were, Zach, when we were in the field running mortgage protection in person, there were certain counties that you were like, this is the winner. Like, this is my little honey hole here, more affluent area. So don't, in my opinion, again, this is just my opinion, but I do believe fully that if you're running in the Northeast, you're going to run into other objections that maybe are harder to overcome. Same thing with California. A lot of my pitch when I'm presenting is living benefits. So maybe if that's what you center your pitch around, just be smart logistically with the lead purchases that you do make.
That's huge, dude. I was just gonna say, I forgot, like, when I was running the field all the time, I used to always look at the counties that were higher income and the ones that had like a higher household income and, less instances of, free and reduced housing and stuff like that. And I used to just go towards the ones with higher income and away from the other ones. And I haven't thought about that in literally years. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's huge. Like, paying attention to where you're buying leads at makes a massive difference, right?
Yeah. Do you remember the conversation we had 3 years ago? And you were like a $700,000 lead. I'm like, I don't even know how you're selling so much insurance, and you had to get really good at that approach. So I'm not I'm
Yeah.
not good, not as good as that. Like I was good at covering the full and 50%. You got so good at equity protection and covering half and selling is like that's the play. So if you're as good as Zach on that kind of stuff, then like it doesn't really matter income wise. For me, I love living in that 180 to 350 range. I know that ain't happening in Dallas, and I know that ain't happening in Denver, and that's probably not happening in California, and that's not happening
Yeah.
in New York, and that's not some of these other areas. So where are those mortgages still around? So that's why I went to like the breadbasket, if you will, that very middle that Midwest of the
Mhm.
country has um, simpler to sell to those people, a less sophisticated sale. Now spending, I am superstitious to the degree that if I don't spend 1,000 per purchase, I think I've got myself convinced that if I only spent 800, like my 3 big sales were coming out of the other $200 of lead
Yeah.
purchase that I decided not to make. So I just like come like 1,000. If it's 956, whatever, cool. But right around that not that $1,000 mark is going to be my lead purchase amount per. Not to be clear, this isn't weekly. This is like per purchase. And how
Mhm.
many purchases you make per week? Well, when you resolve the majority of the leads that you have, it's time to buy more leads. I recently made a post on the partners group about like, hey, I bought 34 leads, made 12 dials, gave 3 presentations, and closed 2 deals for whatever it was. Well, that day continued, and it ended up getting like 6 sales out of that 34 leads. Now that's a hot stack, but
Mhm.
I knew spend time trying to get to the rest of them or know the numbers to say it's time to buy more leads. Now you don't have to spend $1,000 on leads every single day, but dude, we popped off 12 off of a $940 investment. So that ROI has been satisfied. Now on to the next purchase. So for people that are like, well, how do I know when it's time to buy more leads? Give yourself like, I don't know, Zach, if you did this, but I always had an hourly on my time when I was in the field, and like I got obsessed with that. So for when we're doing telesales now, like let's create an ROI that we say we need a 3x, 4x, 5x, 6x, whatever that is. Then once that multiplier has been satisfied, replenish, because at that point
Yeah.
you're cash. So don't be selfish to yourself. Like you got to be generous with your business. Don't starve it. It's got to eat, just like anything else. So it started with the instant internet leads with beneficiaries. That has progressed into a higher quality lead. Um, like a lot of the OGs here, mortgage protection has always been the core of how we built and scaled our business with the capital that you could generate from that. So when I found that there was the opportunity to support not only the Integrity Lead Center, but also like get the best quality leads that are even available on the open market that are scrubbed. Like, let's be clear about something too. When you go straight from a vendor, like the leads aren't scrubbed. And you spend a
Yeah.
lot of time scrubbing these leads, making sure there's the right phone numbers. Everything is like it's scrubbed. It's a scrubbed lead. Nothing more needed to be said on that. So when I found that there were the mortgage protection leads, the digital mortgage that were available, I jumped at that. And because before you tell an agent they should buy them, you got to know what they're buying. Like you got to know what objections
Right.
they're going to show ratios. Like, can I set appointments on these leads? Or should I do one call closes? What's the show ratio going to be like? What's the persistency going to be like? So I just attacked them for a couple of weeks, and my confidence level on getting, because my mindset is like not how do I personally produce Hall of Fame numbers, but how easily or seamlessly can I get a new agent producing and profitable off of a lead type. My confidence was through the roof on those. And again, it's in $1,000 punches. So where the internet leads with venues where maybe I could get like 80 of them or whatever, don't quote me on the math. Now it's like 34, 35. We'll get
Mhm.
there. Dude, like when you're dialing, um, like if no one's picking up, it's painful to dial all day. But you gotta understand, like you're gonna get context. And each presentation is gonna be 25 minutes to an hour, depending on how many questions they ask, depending on how many applications they got to do. So I'm not
Yeah.
endorsing only get 35 leads that'll feed you for the week, but for a day or a day and a half, if you're getting contacts and you're machine gunning them with text, or like your people are getting dripped on the multiple whatever you're doing, you know what you're doing better than I do, and you're getting
Yeah.
appointments booked on that'll keep you busy. And then once you hit the ROI, just buy more.
So what does that look like when you actually get someone on the phone with those? You know, and I guess what are you looking for as far as, you know, how many dials, you know, I know it's not always the same, but like, you know, how many leads do you need to make, you know, say someone's goal is to make at least 10 sales a week. Is that 60 leads ish based on the numbers you were going over earlier?
How many sales?
About 10 sales a week.
10 sales a week. So that's a big number. So I would say, I mean, if they look, dude, if they had 100 leads, they're making 10 sales for sure. And keep in
Yeah.
mind though, like, setting the expectation and setting the bar at a level where anybody can do that, I think is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Like Steve G or Shoddy need 100 leads to make 10 sales? No. But like, but a new agent, like
But
we
they did
gotta,
when they were new. Yeah, they did when they
yeah,
were new, right?
it
That's
works.
what's this is a little bit off topic. I was talking to someone the other day though, and they were like, and so I talked about it on our last like two calls. This agent kept going like, "Hey, how does so and so sell more than me?" And I was like, "Dude, you buy half the amount of leads that they do, and you write almost as much business." And then he doubled his lead order finally because I was like relentless. He's on here right now, I'm sure. I was relentlessly, but every time he would text me, I'd go, "Did you start buying more leads yet?" And he'd go, "No." I'd be like, "Don't call me anymore." And I was just messing with him, right? But he doubled his lead order and then now he's selling 3 times as much as he was. So I mean, a lot of times the answer is like just load up on as many leads as it takes you to make your sales and then refine your skill set, right? That's what I did. Dude, I sucked when I was new, but I got more leads than everyone.
Yeah, for sure. And Wetmore said this like 5 years ago when I started. It's like this is literally a place where you can buy your income. You just have to think
Yeah.
about that. Literally buy your income. You want to do 15 sales a week, like drop 3 stacks and see what
Yeah.
happens.
That's what every week I was spending 2,000 on leads every single week when I was in the field to get 15 sales. And when I was new, I was spending 3,000 a week to get 15, but I got better eventually, right?
100%, 100%.
So what does it
So
look like once you get someone to answer the phone? Like what does the process look like? You know,
yeah,
establish who you are, where you're from, and like moving into the actual sale.
yeah, the qualifier is like ring ring. You say hello. I'm like, hey Zach, Rob Richman, just following up with you on the mortgage protection response card you sent back to us. Looks like you listed Deb as your beneficiary. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, and if you don't remember, I'm going to be like, I'll just say something and jog their memory. I'll say, anyway, so Zach, this is the type of coverage here where if anything happens to you or Deb, the mortgage is taken care of for your family. And that's what you were looking for, right?
It
Now,
is.
is
Yeah.
this, and then I'm going to say, so here, on here, I have, so the digital leads that we get are a little different than a mailer. So it'll be like, so I have the state that you live in is Georgia. What's your mailing
Mm-hmm.
address? And I'll say, I have your age here. Is this, what's your date of birth? Now, is this a landline or a cell phone? Cell phone, perfect. I'm going to shoot you over a picture of my business card. It's got a picture of me on there. Most importantly, it has my NPN number on there. It's like my business social security number. And they only let you have one of these things if you take good care of all your clients. I'm sending that over to you now. Let me know when you get it. Now, if you can get through that, it's at the point where you have to screw it up to not get to a close.
Yeah.
Like that's the hard part with these leads because the intent truly is there. So it's like, yes, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, here's my mailing address. Here's my date of birth. Yes, this is my landline. I see a picture of you. Okay, cool. Now I can trust you. Now it's up to you. And I'll just be like, look, so I'm a broker. I represent all these different companies, and my goals are very simple with you. And it's the same with everybody, even though everybody's situation is a little bit unique. The same 3 objectives apply to everybody. And that's number one, Zach, got to show you something that you qualify for health wise. In this situation, your credit doesn't qualify for you for this, it's your health. So we have to show you something that you qualify. Number two, show you something that you can afford. And number three, show you something that you completely understand. And what I found is in working with tens of thousands of clients over the years, if we can accomplish these 3 goals, they feel very comfortable moving forward with getting coverage and achieving the peace of mind that they initially wanted when they filled out this lead to begin with, or whatever they say. I don't say leads, so take that out, but you get the gist of it.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Yep.
then I go into the financial inventory sheet and I just let that guide the presentation. So your mortgage amount, you had the range is this or whatever it is. What's the exact amount? When did you take it out? Usually what I'm finding with these is they took these out. This is a lot of retro data that they're getting. Mm-hmm. So got good interest rates like pre-COVID or during COVID. So they have really reasonable interest rates on this. And then I get the mortgage payment. And like, depending on the age band, I mean, I don't think this intended to be like a presentation call, but like, when I do prep the cases, like in my mind in real time, when we're going through it, like if they're in their 50s, I'm showing a 15-year level benefit term, 15-year, if they're in their like in 30s or 40s, I'm looking more like maybe CBO, maybe just depends.
Yeah.
This depends. It depends on the underwriting and what kind of medical stuff. A lot of times what I'm finding is that these are older people that have jacked up health issues. So I'm pitching a lot of equity protection. So if you're going to buy these leads, like, you have to polish up on that. You're going to miss a lot of opportunities if you're not confident in the equity protection pitch. And then
and anyone who's not, I was going to say real quick, Rob, anyone who's watching this is not familiar with that. There are a ton of videos on YouTube about the equity protection, and John Wetmore does a really good job. Rob has one. I think, Easton has one. A lot of people have them, but that's one, like, if you're going to sell mortgage protection or really any life insurance, especially if you're dealing with older clients that are sometimes healthy or unhealthy, you need to learn that pitch, right? Because it can apply to, replacing someone's, rent if they're renting together, but definitely go to YouTube and, search equity protection, family first life. You'll find a bunch of good videos on that. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but.
Or a specific need on that. And one thing that this is a good rebuttal. If we have time for, I'll give you, like, this is the rebuttal. It's like, well, we have a policy, or we have some cash or whatever it is. Have you heard the $10 bill? The $10 bill one?
No, I haven't.
Is really good. So this is from, like, everybody's practice company that they came from. So they have really good sales training, and this was one of them. So it's like, say they got $100,000 policy, and we're pitching 18 months, and their mortgage is like $800, whatever. So it's like a $15K, right? So I'm like, Zach, you're on your way home. Deb calls you, says, stop at the grocery store, pick up bread, milk, cheese. You're in the express lane, you're checking out at $7.45. You got a $100 bill in your right pocket, and you got a $10 bill in your left. What bill are you going to use when it's $7.48?
$10 bill.
Right, because if you use the 100, what happens?
A bunch of change.
And what happens when you have a bunch of change in your pocket?
I'll lose it.
Or you wash it. Or you spend it.
Yeah, I'll spend it. I'll definitely spend it.
Work so hard for the savings that you have, your CD, whatever you have, the life insurance policy, that was put in place for a very specific need. Now, Zach, this $10 bill. So what we want to do is put this specific policy in place so you don't have to break up the nest egg that you worked your whole entire life to save and put in place for your family. So this is just that $10 bill equity protection to make sure that your family has the time to adjust and figure out what's right for them at that time in their life. So not for decision. Does that make sense?
Dude, I've never heard that one before. That's
that otherwise would be like, well, I don't know. If you just
you cut out for a second. I was I've never heard the $10 bill one before, but I'm gonna have to start selling again so I can use it a couple of times because that's awesome.
It's so easy because when they're 50s to 75s, they're like, oh, I'm gonna use the 10. Well, of course, because what happens if you use the 100? Well, it breaks, and then you break the bill, and then what happens? Well, we spend it. I'm like, exactly. That's what, this one. So anyway, that is a really effective, like, 30-second rebuttal to the objection of, like, I don't know if there's value in that. Well, you just smack that away because there is value. So, and even if the only value is they pay $120 a month and not break up everything that they work so hard for, they'll bite. And I actually believe in that too. So then I'll talk about how the benefit amount pays out. So it goes directly to you, not to the bank or lending institution. If it has living benefits, I'll talk about that portion of it, how they don't have to die for it to come, for it to benefit them, and they'll have flexibility. So our clients do one of two things: either pay off the house in full or throw the money in the bank and do whatever the heck they want with it. Because when you're going through adversity, flexibility and time is the most important thing. Wouldn't you agree? And my thing is to get just a ton of tie downs, to get these mini closes in throughout the presentation. So when I get to the close, it's like, so do we want to cover the full amount, or do you want to cover your proportionate half? It's not like, hey, do you want it? And if they're like wishy-washy, I'm like, one liner that you just have to use is like, look, assertiveness is key. People like to be told what they do to do in a respectful way. So instead of saying, hey, do you want this one, or is that comfortable for you? It's like, hey, let's do this. We don't even know if we can qualify for this. We need to do an application. We can play with the numbers after we're done with it. But let's do this. Let's just see if we can qualify for it. And if you have any questions as we're going through this, interrupt me. We'll pause this and I'll answer all of them. Because number one, again, remember, we got to get you approved. So that's the portion of that now. Number two, afford. It has to be affordable. And we're talking through it now. I think these numbers are fairly comfortable for you. You mentioned that, yeah, you know, the second one is super affordable and you'd really like the top one. We can play with the numbers in a minute here. but let's get you approved. Then we'll figure out the affordability. And then I'm going to go through everything with you line by line to make sure you understand 100% of what we're doing today. Does that sound fair enough?
Yep.
Okay. What's your social? This, blah, 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 blah. And I don't ask the social first, like in all these applications, like the social is always so early on. I do the address, I'll do driver's license, I'll confirm the date of birth, state of birth, height and weight, email, confirm the cell phone number. And then once I've gotten all of that, I'll say, what's your social? Not what is your social security number, but what's your social? Keep it casual so that they don't feel weird about it. If you're weird, you have to be. If there's ever a time to not be timid in a presentation, I'm like preaching to you like you don't know this, but this is for everybody. This is for everybody.
This is great, dude. No, I'm literally taking notes over here. I have a page of notes, stuff I've forgotten, so I love it.
It's just being timid at the social, at the driver's license or bank information is a guaranteed deal killer. Like people say you have to fake it. So it's not that you have to fake it so you make it, but like this is important. So like we're home. We're at freaking home. We're there. We just have to walk through the door. And then we can get our house and everything is great. But we have to get through that door. And if it's like a fumbling with the key, trying to unlock the door, it's like people start to get cold feet. Like we're already freaking home. Like get confident. This is getting excited.
Well, and that's what like you did that in the beginning too, right? You were like, hey, I have you down as 34 years old. Can you confirm your birthday for me? Like you're not being weird because you don't have the birthday. You're like, no, just confirm the birthday. So same thing, like you don't change your tonality when you're doing that part either. You're like, hey, I have that you're in Texas here, Rob. Is that right? Yeah. All right, cool. Go ahead and confirm your address for me so I make sure I have the right one. Like you're just very matter-of-factly asking them. Same thing with social and driver's license, right? So, and dude, people always say like, I don't like fake it till you make it. Well, I do like that phrase. So I don't care what anyone says. I think that's a great way to operate in the beginning. And you're not faking it or being a pretend, but you have to act like you're confident before you are confident to get confident. So I think people shit on that phrase a lot. I don't know why, because I think that's what I did in the beginning when I was learning this business, was pretending like I was more experienced than I was,
Zach, and the thing is that you're freaking sharp. So I would guess that you figured out very quickly when in the presentation it was appropriate to get confident and recognize the difference between like pressure and when you should be confident. So like people get all weird and they lose their confidence like when they're to the bank, but dude, they gave you all because we're already home, we're already there. So like for new agents that are hearing this, it's like when you get to the point of like you have to visualize the deal is already done. Like you didn't screw it up, which is great. That's the first step. Don't screw it up. And you didn't. You did a masterful job. This was so beautiful of a pitch, because the definition of a good presentation is getting the check at the end of it. Worst presentation in the world that gets a check, God bless. Yeah. So you have to give. Everything that I said out of my mouth was like music to their ears. It was perfect. They just ate it up. Now I just have to finish this thing, and they're excited to give me their bank information because of the way that we presented this. So little tricks, words do matter. The assertiveness, the confidence, you have to do that. And that just comes from reps and one person to say yes. I think the biggest thing for new agents is just having that proof that a lead will buy. And then they're like, whoa, I just need to do that again. And the answer is very simple. It's yes, just do that again.
No doubt. Well, hey, dude, we'll have to have you back on and go through some more specific situations. But I want to make sure we don't run too far over on the hour. So Rob, I appreciate your time, dude. You're a stud, and thank you for everything you do for the company, my man. Thank you for getting on with us.
Thanks for having me.